Welcome to Smart Generation English Lessons. Improve your listening and speaking skills with us.
The Shadows of Mistwood Forest. The Vanishing Boy. It was a quiet evening in the small village of Mistwood. The sun was setting behind the thick forest that surrounded the village, casting long, eerie shadows. 12-year-old Tommy Wilkes had been playing outside near the edge of the woods. When his mother, Clara, called him for dinner, there was no answer. At first, Clara thought he might still be playing, but as the minutes turned into hours, her worry grew. She called her neighbours, and soon the entire village was searching for Tommy. They called his name, their voices echoing into the forest. But the boy had vanished without a trace. The villagers whispered among themselves. Some blamed wild animals, others spoke of old legends. But one thing was clear, something was wrong with Mistwood Forest. Detective Sarah Morgan arrives. The next morning, Detective Sarah Morgan arrived from the nearby city. She was known for solving tough cases and wasn't one to believe in ghost stories. Mistwood's sheriff, Henry Barnes, met her at the village square. "Thanks for coming, Detective," Henry said, tipping his hat. "This isn't the first disappearance we've had near the woods." "How many?" Sarah asked, her voice calm but firm. "3 in the last 2 years," Henry replied. "All children, no clues, no bodies, just gone." Sarah nodded, her face serious. "Let's start with Tommy's family." Clara Wilkes was pale and trembling when Sarah spoke to her. "Tommy was a good boy," Clara said, clutching a photo of her son. "He wouldn't run away. He was scared of the forest." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Why was he scared?" Clara hesitated, then whispered, "The stories about the shadows in the woods, they say they take people." The first clue. Sarah decided to investigate the woods. She walked along the edge of the forest, scanning for any signs of Tommy. The trees were tall and dark, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers. A strange silence hung in the air, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Near a clearing, Sarah found something, Tommy's red cap. It was dirty but intact. She picked it up and looked around, her heart racing. There were no footprints, no signs of struggle, just the cap lying on the ground. She took it back to the village and showed it to Clara. "Is this Tommy's?" she asked. Clara gasped, tears filling her eyes. "Yes, that's his." Sarah frowned. The cap was a clue, but it raised more questions than answers. Why was it left behind? And where was Tommy now? The stranger in the tavern. That evening, Sarah went to the village tavern to gather more information. The villagers were hesitant to talk, but one man, an old hunter named Elias, spoke up. "You shouldn't have gone into those woods, Detective," Elias said, his voice low. "They're cursed." "Cursed?" Sarah repeated, raising an eyebrow. Elias nodded. "Long ago, before Mistwood was built, the forest was home to an ancient tribe. They worshipped the shadows and believed they had the power to take people away. When settlers came, they drove the tribe out, and the shadows were left behind." Sarah leaned forward. "Have you seen these shadows?" Elias hesitated, then said, "Once. Years ago, I was hunting in the woods at dusk. I saw something, a shape that wasn't human. It moved like smoke but had eyes that glowed faintly. I never went back." Into the forest. The next day, Sarah decided to explore deeper into the forest. Sheriff Henry insisted on coming with her. "You'll need backup," he said, loading his rifle. The two entered the woods, their footsteps crunching on the dry leaves. The deeper they went, the darker it became. The trees seemed to grow closer together, and the air felt heavy. "Do you believe in the shadows?" Sarah asked Henry as they walked. "I don't know," he admitted, "but something's out here, something dangerous." They reached a small clearing where the ground was covered in strange symbols carved into the dirt. Sarah crouched down to examine them. "These look old," she said. "Could they be from the tribe Elias mentioned?" Before Henry could answer, a sound interrupted them, a faint whispering voice. It seemed to come from all around them. Sarah and Henry froze, their eyes scanning the trees. "Who's there?" Sarah called out. The whispering grew louder, and then a shadowy figure emerged from the trees. It was tall and thin, its body shifting like smoke. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Henry raised his rifle, but Sarah stopped him. "Wait," she said. "It's not attacking." The shadow tilted its head as if studying them. Then, without warning, it disappeared into the trees. "What the hell was that?" Henry asked, his voice shaking. "I don't know," Sarah replied, "but I think it's watching us." The Forgotten Shrine. As night fell, Sarah and Henry decided to return to the clearing the next day. They brought lanterns and a map of the forest. This time, they noticed something they had missed before, a narrow path leading deeper into the woods. The path led them to a stone structure covered in moss and vines. It was a shrine, its walls engraved with the same symbols they had seen in the clearing. In the center of the shrine was a large black stone that seemed to hum with energy. "What is this place?" Henry asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think it's connected to the tribe," Sarah said, running her fingers over the engravings. "This might be where they worship the shadows." As they examined the shrine, Sarah found something else, a small pile of children's belongings, a shoe, a torn jacket, and a toy car. Her stomach churned. "These must belong to the missing kids," she said. Before Henry could respond, the whispering started again. This time it was louder, more insistent. The shadows began to gather around the shrine, their forms shifting and twisting. "We need to leave," Henry said, his voice trembling. "No," Sarah said, her eyes fixed on the shadows. "They're trying to tell us something." The truth revealed. Sarah stepped closer to the black stone, ignoring Henry's protests. She placed her hand on it, and suddenly her mind was filled with images. She saw the ancient tribe, their rituals, and their bond with the shadows. The tribe had made a pact with the shadows, offering sacrifices in exchange for protection. But when the settlers came and destroyed the tribe, the pact was broken, and the shadows turned vengeful. The shadows weren't evil, they were trapped. They had been trying to communicate, to find someone who could set them free. When Sarah removed her hand, the shadows surrounded her. They showed her an image of Tommy, alive but trapped in a dark, shadowy realm. The only way to save him was to restore the pact. "How do we do that?" Sarah asked aloud. The shadows didn't answer, but Sarah understood. She had to perform the ritual. The final ritual. With the villagers' help, Sarah gathered the items needed for the ritual, candles, herbs, and symbols drawn in ash. They returned to the shrine at dusk, the air thick with tension. Sarah stood in the center of the shrine, reciting the ancient words the shadows had shown her. The wind picked up, and the shadows swirled around her, their forms growing stronger. As the ritual reached its climax, the black stone cracked, releasing a burst of light. The shadows let out a low, mournful sound before disappearing into the night. A moment later, Tommy stumbled out of the woods, dazed but unharmed. Clara ran to him, tears streaming down her face. The villagers cheered, but Sarah felt a deep sense of unease. The shadows were gone, for now, but she knew their story wasn't over. And so, Mistwood Forest fell silent once again, but its secrets would linger, waiting for the next chapter to unfold.